To all the crypto bros I've loved before. To all the crypto bros that have traveled in and out my door. Hello. Hello. I think I'm recording on YouTube. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Crypto Traders Arena. I bet nobody knows that song I was just singing. You guys are all way too young. I'm even too young. Reminds me of my parents, though. Hello. Welcome back to my little Tuesday crypto show. Here we are again on Tuesday afternoon. New York Stock Exchange close every Tuesday. I guess I'm doing this show. Of course, every Sunday we're also doing our Road to Financial Freedom crypto plan. Haven't quite figured out how this show is going to be different than that, but for the most part, we are going through sort of the, that specific plan on that show and the sort of 100 or so top market cap coins. So it'd be cool if this offering has more, maybe it gets into the weeds a little bit more and goes through some of the names that we wouldn't be talking about as much in that other show. But nonetheless, on Sundays at 16 UTC, Paul and I talk about that plan, which you can follow along with. And then, of course, Tuesdays, right now I'm doing this. And also on Tuesdays, if you ever want to just live trade with us, we're always trading during the New York session. That's open to the public. You do have to be a member on our Discord channel, which I did post a fresh new link here at the bottom of this YouTube show here, Discord link to join up if you're not in our Discord community. But Tuesdays we do have a live trading session for New York Open. Then and that happens about a half hour before the New York session or the actual stock exchange open. Which in terms of UTC, I forget what that is. I suppose that's that would be, I don't know, 12:30 UTC or 13:30. Yeah, the New York Stock Exchange opens 14. Or shit, I might have just fucked all that up, but you get the point. It's just Google when the New York Stock Exchange opens, and we start a half hour before that. But yeah, like I said, I did put a fresh link for Discord. We are private on Discord now, so you got to have one of our expiring links that I post on these shows here. It's good for like 7 days, and hop in and say hello if you're interested. It's pretty slow right now in crypto in general, and so it's a little slow in our community too. We are trading away every day though, and of course on our premium side of the room we do focus more on scalping and day trading and swing trading, so lots of trading going on there, not just crypto for that matter too. Do you get into like sort of stock indexes and some other things like that? But we're hearing everything twice. Oh geez, sorry, crap. Do I have YouTube open here? Sorry, guys. Maybe I have YouTube open somewhere here. I don't think I do. Are you hearing double? Oh. Well, Hanya's got an echo, and it sounds like... Hanya, maybe it's just you, Hanya. Sometimes if I accidentally leave YouTube running, it will do that, but I don't have YouTube up and running right now. So maybe somebody else. Well, Paul says it's fine. Hope it might just be your internet connection. Maybe do you have 2 sessions open of YouTube? Anyway, hopefully it's not on my end. I have done that before though, man. I've done that and not known. Because people weren't watching live on YouTube, and it's just like it turns into this feedback loop of echo. But anyway, I don't think that's on my end right now. So I was just going to mention our Twitter page here at Crypto Traders Arena, Paul J Trading. If you're not following us on Twitter, also do that. I'm not the one tweeting out. Cool, David's saying audio is fine. All right, good. Well, I never even know. Unless you guys tell me, because I can't really monitor my own voice here very well. I mean, I can, but then I hear an echo and it's annoying. So I just trust that my settings are good, and I try to raise my voice as much as possible. I do notice the more fancier YouTubers, they got a much better sound than we often do, but hopefully it's good enough. It's all we can hope for. Definitely not putting too much effort into the production side of this. In fact, someday I'll make an intro video. Oh, you had it running in Discord too. Yeah, that can happen, Hanya. That's what I thought maybe I was doing. Maybe I'll get a cool intro going. And actually, speaking of Hanya, I do use Hanya's graphics that she sends me here. So my thumbnail right now is from her, and I have a couple other ones. So thank you for that. But I haven't really gotten to making an intro for this show. I should probably do that. But nonetheless, I got Twitter open here, and I was just going to mention, follow us on Twitter if you're not already. We're usually posting all the content that we're putting out here. So, oh, I'm sorry, it's not Twitter anymore. X.com. I always wonder how long it will take me to actually stop saying Twitter. I might not ever stop saying Twitter. I think I'll just keep saying Twitter just to piss off head Twitter chief in charge. Anyhow, maybe move on to some charts, and I do have a list of requests I was going to look at, and I also kind of went through some names and just kind of tried to pick out things with strong OBV, because I'm sort of with crypto in general, I'm kind of in that, well, same story as late, just not a lot of weekly W's yet, but location's good on most names, and we're just kind of waiting for a true bottom to come in. So I'm mostly concerned with just trying to line up stuff that's got strong looking OBV divergences or W's and then potential weekly W's, but I'm not finding a lot of weekly W's. Any weekly W's that I do see are kind of like just working away, and maybe prices coming back down against them, but they're not new, which is okay. Something like XLM or XRP for that matter, those have solid weekly W's that have been kind of playing out for a while now. And they're coming back into buy location. So I was going to mention those two. But first, I'll just do a quick overview and just kind of check out the DXY here and see that it's just ripping again to a new high. That's a bull market, really, right? Just higher highs, higher lows. No sign of weakness at all. Starting to get above 38.2 in earnest now here. And we also took out the old key high here. So I don't know. I don't think if we are range bound here between this old high and this low here, it better turn around pretty quick, because this isn't what we consider an FU move normally. In fact, we were talking about that today on the lower time frames in the S&P 500. If we were trying to trade like an FE setup against this high, we would really expect more of a reaction here than what we've gotten. This, some sort of reclaim back into the range after the high's taken. Of course, DXY, it's a little different in terms of like stop runs and stuff. Nobody's actually day trading this index or anything. But nonetheless, there wasn't much of a reaction here as we got up into the highs, and we've basically just gotten through the couple gaps that I had highlighted, and now we're above 38.2. So this thing has not slowed down at all. If anything, we're now just finally ticking into overbought on RSI, which I've been waiting for, and I've pointed out that, last time we got overbought was the top, so recently. But what the hell? If we keep shooting straight up here, 50% level is not that high up, much higher, so could certainly see you move up into there. There's a kind of open air gap beyond that gets up into the old M top and like 61.8 fibs and stuff. So this thing might just keep ripping. It's no sign of rolling over at all on the daily chart, and really not even when you zoom in. You can see even today, like opened up lower, and now we're just pushing towards the top of the range for the daily candle. So of course that kind of coincides with the pretty big sell-off in the stock indexes today, and in general for the last week or so. And I'll just mention these purple bars that I'd drawn yesterday, talking about GAN rule, GAN 50% level. I don't know, WD GAN, whatever you want to call it. He had a simple rule that a trend should retrace 50% of the move in half the time. And so I did kind of draw these out for fun and just to get an idea of, we had this huge up move in the stock market here. This is the SPY ETF, SP 500. And of course, the low is from October of last year, and we've just kind of been straight up, to be fair. There's a little bit of up and down, but of late, especially this year, it's just been kind of a straight up kind of deal. And I suppose you could argue this is sort of where the DXY is, right? With like super strong pointing moving averages up, but no breakdown yet. Like, you can see how eventually this broke down here, and the moving average cross eventually came in. The DXY is nowhere near that. we're still just somewhere like back in here where we're just trending higher. Um, but I kind of drew this for fun, and we did kind of establish the 50% level here is at 403.78, and somewhere in December would be the time, would be half of the move. So we might just kind of grind our way down towards the 50% level here for the rest of the year. Might not be straight down, and of course the 200 MA here is support, and we'll see what happens when we get there. But I'd also today was talking about this ABCD, and I thought maybe we'd catch a bounce here as we got into this PRZ zone, but it doesn't look like it. Now I just see kind of gaps, like gap right here. This gap's not really fully filled here. That's near the 50% level. So we'll see. I mean, it doesn't have to play out perfectly, but this is just sort of a guide. And I guess the point here is we still have a lot of time to really complete this GAN rule. So maybe there's more, kind of thought maybe we were going to establish a range here against this low, but of course couldn't do that. So now I guess support here is just this high and the 200 and kind of this traffic area right here. There's just sort of open air down to that 418 or so. So point being is just looks very heavy. And of course, this is a big M. And so I guess the only thing, well, there's nothing particularly bullish to say. The only thing bullish you could say is we're technically still in an uptrend here. And typically I'd like to see the 200 checked and resolved bullishly to confirm the uptrend. So if we do come down in the 200 and W out again, then we could argue this is just a higher low and we're still just cranking away higher highs and higher lows. It's a little early to make that call, but that's about the only thing particularly bullish you could say. It's not really even very bullish. RSI is kind of oversold here now, just barely ticking in there, but certainly no divergences or anything. And if anything, OBV is still M'ing out and just pushing down. And remember, I said just patiently wait for OBV to W is always kind of the like slow, patient way, in my opinion. It takes a lot longer for OBV to turn than like RSI or MACD or any of those other oscillators usually turn before OBV. Cool. Yeah, Paul's saying he has an entry on APT. That's we'll talk about APT in a minute. That's just one that the group has been talking about, kind of like a swing trade, sort of position trade, daily W that's come in on APT. We'll look at that here in a minute. In fact, I have it up on my other screen here. But before that, I'll just really quickly just try to speed up a bit here and just say that the Nasdaq's very similar to the S&P, but we just made that M, sorry, not W. And so we did actually tick through here. And this is the ETF. I kind of decided to start using the ETFs to do these shows instead of the cumulative futures contract. I just think it's a little cleaner. For the zoomed out timeframes, at least when I zoom in, it's the futures contracts themselves are fine. It's just when you look at the daily and weekly, I don't know, the data's weird because they just sort of they do those cumulative charts where they group all the contracts together, and so I think it changes the price action a little bit. I noticed that when Nathaniel mentioned that to me the other day, so thank you for that, sir. Which is something I kind of knew. I just had sort of stop paying attention to it. And now TradingView has this adjust button, which is like adjusting for when you look at the cumulative chart, it has this adjust for contracts. This is adjust for dividends, but it kind of changes the data. So it's like, okay, which is correct kind of thing. So I figured that, the SPY is a massively, well, this QQQs as well. QQQ for the NASDAQ and SPY for the ETF, the SPY. Geez, the S&P. I'm getting like a little anyway, these are massively traded vehicles, and I think there's pretty accurate data, and it just doesn't have the overnight session London and Asia included, but for a zoomed out I think it's fine. Anyway, point being, same as the S&P here. It's just that we're now making the M, and I will add that the 200 is much lower, so a move back to the 200 actually is still quite of a drop, whereas the S&P is starting to get close. So we'll just see which one's leading here. Now, I mean, I would have thought maybe I don't know. The NASDAQ was leading the rally, I think is fair to say, because things like NVIDIA and Facebook and Tesla and, a lot of those bigger names were leading the rally through here. So, but now I don't know. Seems like the S&P is a little farther along in the move. But I I will point out, actually, just to go back to, well, I don't want to get into that. I'll just keep moving on. So yeah, NASDAQ looks the same as S&P. We're just rolling over. You can see the moving average crossing again here. So this is kind of what a top looks like, right? Well, hopefully, we got an M back here, which was sort of like the warning shot. And then actually the move back to and remember this for like the next crypto top and stuff too. This is a very clean top now in hindsight. I mean, with an M, and then we retested the reload zone here, even almost, even hit 78.6 almost to the T. Damn. Yeah, look at that. Like we just they front ran I don't know. Let's see. 78.6 is 380.86, and that high is 380.83. So they front ran 78.6 by 3 ticks. But point being here, and this gap right here and stuff, this is like a classic like sort of trader's range trade here. You let the market structure top come in, the move happens, and then you're shorting the dead cat bounce. Like if you think of it like that, you're basically you're going to short the next bounce in a reload zone, which would have been this 3-bar top right here. So, I mean, you could have even used this fractal and taken that short here above 61.8 fib, 375. So, pretty classic range trade type short. But also, this is a pretty classic looking top, to be honest. I mean, nice M here and now a bigger M. I suppose if you drew those same ABCs here, that's going to target somewhere down here. And there's not a lot of support in the NASDAQ. I will say that. Geez, there's not anything to really work with except this high back here, which is also, I guess, sort of that 200 period moving average kind of confluence here. So that's 334. So, man, that's quite a drop that could be coming here into the end of the year. It would make sense. But to be fair, again, the 200 is pointing up here, and we're in an uptrend. So we'll just have to see what happens as we try to find some sort of support. I don't know. Are we in a situation where this thing just completely craps out and comes all the way back down to reload zones? That's kind of what we're thinking for crypto. So I don't know. We'll see. But anyway, Russell 2000, I'll mention, as always, it's just getting back down to the bottom of the range, just getting completely destroyed here. Never got my top of the range tag that I was really looking for, and maybe thinking of some sort of move higher if we could have maintained any kind of bull cycle or get any sort of bull cycle going for the small cap stock market. But I mean, that's like, if anything, this is just sort of some consolidation that's getting narrower here, and we're just getting back down to the bottom of the range. And we talked about stocks a lot yesterday in a meeting, and I mean, just really aren't finding, especially in the small cap stock market, there's nothing to get too excited about here. So if anything, I still do kind of think that investing or directing your investment attention towards altcoins and not stocks is probably sort of the approach for right now, and just letting the stock market kind of figure out what it's going to do before there's truly a like sort of investment buying opportunity. It's just kind of my opinion. I mean, I'm going to do both, but I'm not going to rush into anything. I'm going to wait for weekly W's in the stock market just as much as I will with altcoins. And also kind of the conversation there yesterday too was, most of my attention will be on probably the smaller cap kind of stocks and sort of stocks that are really kicked down in the dumps and have potential to double and stuff like that. Whereas like, I'm not really waiting to buy the dip on something like Nvidia, for example, which is just, blasted off. We'll see though, if, maybe there's some sort of like window of buying in the future here. If we that would take pretty big capitulation, I think, to start loading up on those sort of like blue chips or whatever you want to call them. Names that I don't consider to be particularly buyable. I mean, if you look at Nvidia, just to really quick, I mean, it's got like so much work to do to become viable again. I mean, where do you step in and buy something like this? Typically we'd be hunting reload zones, which is way down here. So we'll see what happens. Like, can Nvidia get all the way back down to reload zones anytime soon? Maybe. And if anything, looks kind of like, actually, I'll end my talk of stocks right here just by saying that this looks like a head and shoulders that could be building. So we are probably getting close to a bounce. As the S&P gets down into that 200 moving average, I see this as a neckline kind of forming right here. So, maybe we have to bounce here, and then there's going to be a short opportunity here again. So we'll see if that happens. But my point is, it does kind of look like we could see a bounce in the stock market soon here, just like a dead cat bounce. And that wouldn't be a huge shock for like the NASDAQ too, because like I said, like going back to that trade, it's going backwards a little bit here, but just like this little M, I mean, this is kind of, just this little M came in, the dump happened, and then short location became the bounce. I think you could argue, well, now we have another M right here, and we also have the bigger M. And I think it's reasonable to think that wherever they dip this, there'll be some sort of dead cat bounce to make a lower high again, and there might be another short opportunity. It could be off of this M here, like 369, which once we bottom, you'll see if you drew reload zones off of that move, you'll probably see that the reload zone ends up becoming in the M, just sort of like here. Now, they might not do it that clean because they already did it here, but it's my point is when an M comes in, it's not uncommon to at least check the M's breakdown level or sometimes move higher up into the reload zone. Same thing for W's, of course. This is kind of like the Wyckoff check idea or just sort of like reload zone tag kind of idea. So anyway, but yes, point being, small caps look like shit. NASDAQ and ES look like they're just kind of falling apart here and need to come into support. And all Bitcoin is still just it's still just hanging in here. All I can really, I'm not going to repeat I don't think there's anything new to say about Bitcoin on like the zoomed out timeframes here. It's still a question of, do we hold this key support at 25,300 and can we put in a W somewhere? We now have RSI divergence, so I will say that. Like we have divergence. And OBV is trying to turn. I wouldn't say we really truly have a W here. And it's like head and shoulders-y, but we'd have to kind of take out those highs. It'd be nice to just see this pull back a little bit and put in a nice clean W, maybe in conjunction with coming back down against the lows here again and also Wing in price. But the long story is just the same. It's like we're still sort of in this uptrend that's barely hanging on. We're starting to lose the trend line, which isn't a great sign, but we haven't truly M'd. I mean, you could argue there's a little bit of an M. It's sort of ugly, but kind of M'ing out there a little bit. And we're also, what I don't like is we're setting up sort of like an ABCD. Looks like I have half of it drawn here, but just maybe pick something brighter than that. I don't know. What's a nice... I'm running out of colors here. Just go back to that one. I don't love this. I mean, I don't, it's not that I'm not particularly, I don't have a problem with Bitcoin. It's not like I'm going to be upset if Bitcoin does come back down into reload zones. In fact, I think that's kind of just a very likely scenario. I keep talking about just this big accumulation range and the next buy opportunity being somewhere down in here. But I'm starting to see sort of like this larger ABCD kind of, I don't know, maybe take like those levels, something like that. It could be more like this one here, which would sort of be probably more accurate or more like, I don't know. It depends on your rules of ABCDs, but point I'm getting at here is if we keep making sort of like equal highs up here or lower highs, we're going to start building sort of bearish consolidation here potentially that could start making an ABCD take us down into reload zones. And so it just comes down to a question of whether you believe this rally is over or not yet. Because either way, even if we shoot up into like 38.2s and 35 grand and stuff, I still think we'd probably have to roll back over. It's starting to kind of look like maybe we've already finished this this dead cat bounce. I would consider that to be like a dead cat bounce off of the old highs, sort of, or relief rally or whatever people call it. I think dead cat bounce is a good one. Because it is just sort of like prices had gotten so washed out and, eventually puts in a bottom, came into clear. I mean, we don't need to get into the past in Bitcoin, but clearly came into good buy levels down there. And point being is now, how deep do we pull back? I think that's the real question. It looks kind of like we're in the process of dipping. So are you a buy the dip kind of person? Me personally, I'm a buy the dip type person as we get down into reload zones here. I'm not thinking we're losing these lows at the moment. It doesn't mean it won't happen. It's just that I see this as a buying opportunity wherever this pullback comes down to. Now, of course, if it doesn't make it to reload zones, then it starts setting up kind of like continuation ABCDs and stuff like that, which is actually kind of like less healthy, because if we do like ABCD somewhere here, then that's going to look like that actually starts painting an upside target. Whereas if we just range down into the reload zones in W, we don't really have as clear of an upside target. So the chance of a higher upside is possible. But if we like continuation trade like something like that, then it does start painting like a location to see it roll over, because that would suggest this dead cat bounce is still sort of like in play here. This uptrend is still in play. So maybe it's better to just let this thing fall apart here and come back down to reload zones and put in W's and start over where it can start, start building a nice sideways consolidation here that could suggest way higher prices later. That's probably what we'd want to see, but we don't get to choose, right? So for the moment, we're just hanging on to the neckline, and the head and shoulders is still very active, and the target's up here. So we'll see what happens. I guess, well, I did mention the RSI divergence is in, so that's a positive, and location's okay for like, continuation trades, I suppose. Any kind of W's down here against the lows could suggest that we might take this high out. So I could see sort of longs off there, but it's just not yet. This is really ugly. This last month or two of price action, really all the way back to here. We didn't get like a clean M or anything. It's unlike the stock market. I don't know if you can really call this a clean M up here, right? Of course, I have all these lines, but that's not an M like I showed you those M's in the NASDAQ. This is not that. So just ugly. But, and I guess I already mentioned OBV. Just kind of look, it's trying to turn, but it's not W'd. And Ethereum, I'll just say that the same kind of that GAN 50% rule idea here. Ethereum's like already, we almost hit the 50% level. That's sitting here at 1,512, and we got down to like 1,530 or wherever that low is. 1,530. So that's kind of close enough almost, I'd say. However, Ethereum still looks kind of heavy. So it's, I still think we're going to come back down against this trend line here. And looks like my trend line might have moved a little bit, or it's off the wrong low here. Or no, it's not. So anyway, ABCD target and then 50% level and trend line are all 1,500 and $1,500 big fat round number. That kind of all just falls in right here with confluence. And then this sort of idea of like the move, half of the moves taken back in half the time. I drew these sort of time bars here, and it just highlighted, ironically, is just the exact PRZ ABCD. If we had hit it right there, it would have been a perfect GAN 50% rule move. And we got close. So it looks like we're going to dump still down into it, though. And of course, this isn't really like a buy location. It's more of like a target. Like if you were shorting this 78.6, which would have been a killer short here, kind of that same idea. We got kind of an M in Ethereum. Very ugly, but it is an M, and then they ran it back up into reload zone 78.6 of the range, and then that was short location. It was a brilliant level if you hit that. And then your target would be like this GAN. It's more of like a targeting plan, not a bottom calling location so much. Although I wouldn't be surprised to see a bounce when just some sort of bounce when we do get into that level. But it's usually more used as like a target, I'd say. But that's just me. Who knows? And then anyway, long story short, Ethereum looks pretty weak still. I think 1,500 needs to be tagged before I can really say too much else. And of course, same story. If we do just roll over, it's probably a good idea if we are fully rolled over here, which Ethereum I think kind of is. The trend's much more broken on Ethereum than it is on Bitcoin. Then we should be looking for W's down here below 1,350. For the bottom. And I do think that'll be like the end of the year. I don't think that, maybe we hit this 50% level, catch a bounce, and then just roll over again, and we find ourselves somewhere down here towards the end of the year. I think that's just generally what I'm thinking. And then I'll just add that RSI didn't confirm its divergence here like Bitcoin did. It didn't quite break through. It needs to break through the 50 line here to actually confirm that divergence. And OBV looks the same as Bitcoin, trying to turn, but very V bottom looking. So generally speaking, just kind of boring, bearish leaning market and risk on, and DXY risk off is ripping. So I'd kind of expect more of the same for the moment until I mean, I do think that, like, yeah, if the S&P can get down into this 200 and bottom, then that would be the time to look for a bounce here on like daily charts. So we'll see what happens there. But maybe move on to just some altcoin names. I will start with that APT because we were talking about that one today, and Paul had a trade here setting up. Look at it here on Binance, and I'll just say that it's clearly a nice W. This is sort of the kind of thing. I mean, hopefully you can at least see the difference between I like buying something like this as opposed to buying Ethereum, which is sort of more like right here or something. You know, it's like not in good location, kind of rolled over, has a lot more downside risk. Altcoins don't have as much downside risk at this point, but of course they're governed by Ethereum and Bitcoin. So if Bitcoin and Ethereum shit the bed, then these are probably going to not quite have the momentum behind them. But they're very close. Like this is, very nice looking chart. Of course, have good location depending on where you want to take your fibs from, whether it's here or all the way back to the opening price. They're both going to be close to, pretty similar to the same level, and you can see it's like 88.6. We're basically getting down. You know, we tagged 88.6 and sort of based off it. Actually tagged it a couple times here, and now we're sort of basing off 88.6 as a great level to be hunting a W at. I mean, if you went back to here, then we're still, 78.6 basically. So either way, location's good. I kind of like using this low here just because of this wonky price action on the open. No W structure here though, really. So it does, that's a big fair value gap right there. So there is downside risk for sure if we lose these lows. But as a trade, if you're a person that likes to buy W's, then I think you can argue that there's a 3-reason trade here. And I would say it's, locations 88.6 around there, and then you can see there's actually an OBV divergence. There's a bigger one here. So if you're using any, I'm sure you could pull up RSI or something like that too and find divergences, but just using OBV, I see, move to new low. And then actually, did we tick to new low there? 4897 and 4932. So yeah, we actually are in divergence through here too. Yeah, just that one's confirmed. And then, of course, this big one's confirmed too, because we now have taken out these highs. So you have double divergence. There's one right there, and there's the bigger one right here. So if your setup is, I wait for trade location at or below 78.6, and then you're waiting for momentum divergence on OBV, then you have confirmed OBV divergence. And then your third reason is to buy a market structure W. It looks like there's a trade setting up right now. Probably should have just got filled here. And you could, maybe you are going to risk these lows. Remember, I said there's a considerable downside risk once we lose these lows. So it would probably be not the worst idea to just, if you're taking this as a trade. And we could even use GAN for fun. I'll set up the GAN 50%. We'll actually see the target for this. But say you're risking I might as well risk to this tail. In my opinion, they're almost the same. But and then if you lose these lows, you walk away because there's just a giant fair value gap here that could get tested all the way down there. So if you're trading this, not little old lady or still halves on doubles or whatever, that's a 3-reason setup where you basically just be buying this W. And then I'd say the 50% level is a pretty good target just to keep in mind, or to use as your sell target. So we could draw that here. And hell, you're going to bang a double out. That's a 17-1. And to be fair, that's a really tight stop, and you might have to get stopped out, of course. But it's almost like, damn, is my stop in the right? We'll even go a little lower just than those lows, just to kind of give us some room. That's a 14-1 back to the 50% level with a 136% move. So I don't know. It's pretty aggressive for sure in the current crypto climate. But you never know. This thing it's got the W, and you could even argue there's like trend line, another setup all together. You could say that you could draw trend lines maybe off of that one for sure. And of course we got W's way on the other side. But even if you use this one, still got a W on the other side. That one, not so much. So anyway, definitely setup. This is just kind of the stuff that we look at all the time in our group too. Definitely could see this playing out. So we'll just see what happens here. But that's right at the buy location right now, 532. And then Paul was saying we have an entry on APT. So yeah, and you could see, where can I show you that really quick? I mean, we post this stuff. I mean, if you're in our free room, even you would have seen this earlier today. I believe Paul was in there saying, yeah, right, here we go. That's his version of the same setup. And I guess he's looking for 10. Yeah, it's not sort of same levels. He's got some different levels that I can't see because he's not zoomed out here. But you see he's taking 1% risk, buying that W. He was giving everybody plenty of time here. That was at 548, and now we've actually hit that level. So, I mean, he drinks his Kool-Aid, and I don't know, that's kind of what we do. And this is his trade, THG trade from yesterday, actually, that was framed in the New York session. And that one was working away, and then I think came back and got stopped at trailing, so didn't quite keep moving. But this is the kind of stuff we're always posting in here. So that's just in our free room. And, of course, we do the same thing on the premium side, which does get a little bit more into like lower time frame trading for sure. Most of it, of what we talk about is lower time frames. And that's kind of the point of like our New York sessions. You know, like today was a pretty boring session, to be honest. There wasn't like tons of action. But you know, we sit in there and look for lower time frame trades. You know, what else can I talk about? So anyway, there's one to chew on, APT. And I think like if we zoom out to maybe a weekly chart and just talk about it from like investor grade perspective, clearly location's still good. And we have like a 3-bar bottom because, you know, we have a basically a fractal bottom, no W yet here. But OBV is also in divergence. So this, as far as my investment plan, I'm just waiting for weekly W's like on most of these here. But location's good, same location. And OBV divergences are coming in. I don't know if, can we say they're confirmed yet here? We can say this one's, no, sorry, not confirmed. This one confirmed back here to that low, you know. So we did get confirmation there on the low, move to lows. Of course, that wasn't the low at this point, and now we're making a lower low here. But OBV still in divergence through there. So, and it actually will confirm this week if the price stays where it's at, because we are breaking out here. So if we can just close anywhere above where we're at right now, then we'll have confirmed divergence here. And for, you know, longer term, maybe it takes a little longer. You know, if it doesn't take off right here, you know, I'm looking for something like this, and maybe it even has to, maybe it pops pretty good and then comes back and has to W later. Either way, I think from like a longer term viewpoint, I think nibbles are fine, W's are better. Sort of the same as all crypto here. I don't have a problem with buying it there, but me personally, again, I just repeat myself constantly, but I'm kind of just, I'm still in the environment of waiting for weekly W's. Like if we're in a more bullish environment and there's more weekly W's working, I'm much more likely to start drawing reload zones and just hitting levels like hitting 78.6. But I don't think there's any rush. I'm trying to keep my dry powder, you know, I'm trying to hold on to my capital and not spend it too quickly. So I don't see any real rush here, because I do think into the end of the year we could easily just see, you know, maybe this one, there's always something pumping. Maybe this thing rips, but in general, I think most of the crypto is just going to kind of drag along here and bottom. And this isn't what we would call like a weekly bottom just yet. Some other names that well, maybe I'll hit the request. Let's see here. Take that away. See if there's anything in the comments. You guys are, of course, everybody's talking about BitBoy today, and I, fuck, I don't pay that much attention, but I did, of course, watch the video of him being completely unhinged, that I'm sure everyone's seen by now. And I don't have any comment on that. I feel bad for the guy, but I also feel like he's not necessarily been a very reputable. But I do, my heart goes out to him in the sense that he seems like he's really struggling. I will add, though, that, like, be careful who you, I don't know. It's like this, he's just, it is crazy that it seems like crypto, and not crypto, but easy money can break people. And crypto has provided easy money for many people. And I've seen a lot of people fall apart in crypto. Like a lot of the sort of bigger names, you know, they they build themselves up and then they blow themselves up. And I would just say, like, if anything with BitBoy, I never followed his show that much, but I know he was a massive shill through the bull cycles. And just, I don't know if you can, do you really want to rely on it? It's just sad to see like him fall apart now, but there was people that thought he was like the smartest dude ever last cycle. You know, there's people that followed everything he said and probably got wrecked because of him. And it's just sad to see now that he's just another dude like us, probably with drug problems and emotional issues. And I mean, hopefully not like us. He might be worse off, but I mean, we all struggle with our things. It's sad to see that happen. And just, I don't know, hopefully this is why we try, we're teaching our little training course right now. And as much as like you kind of, it's good to learn from others and it's good to listen to others and sort of weigh everybody's opinions and learning technical analysis, for example, from people that have more experience than you. Those are great things to do. But at the end of the day, you still have to you have to do this for yourself. And if you follow a dude like BitBoy, you're probably going to suffer the fate that he's eventually will suffer. I don't know, like, and so I guess, just be careful who you're fucking listening to on YouTube. I'm not saying listen to me either. If anything, I have a very different approach than Mr. BitBoy. I just am not the same type of person. It's not better or worse. Doesn't mean I don't have my own emotional issues. It's just that I don't have any interest in being a shill. In fact, it just makes me cringe. And I hate the idea of thinking people, I even sometimes I don't really like the idea of people buying or listening to me too closely and making financial decisions based on the things I say. 'Cause I'm wrong all the time. I just, I like doing this and it's fun to be part of a community and it's like, it's cool to sort of share opinion but it's just be careful. I really want people to figure out their own trading plan and do their own. Hell, most people I've taught how to trade are way better traders than me. Or I know people have made way more money. So it's like, it doesn't really, I don't want to be like BitBoy ever. And hopefully I'll keep my act together enough to not blow myself up like him. And I don't even know the exact situation he's in, or I'm just sort of making a broad statement. I mean, anybody that's making that kind of video, to a shit ton of people they don't know online, that's troublesome to me. I don't want to ever find myself in a position like that. And I don't think I will. And I also won't probably do the things that he did. Like if you ever find me trying to, if I'm ever shilling a coin, something's probably gone wrong. And if for some reason anybody ever pays me to shill a coin, and if I wouldn't do it unless I believed in, I don't know, I'd have to be honest about my intentions. I don't know. It's not my style. So of course I'm not a very good YouTuber and there's like, 10 people watching this right now. So it's like, we're not the same for many reasons, BitBoy and I. Or most of the people I follow on YouTube, they're just, I gravitate towards more of the people that are interested in sharing knowledge and sharing experience and taking a lighthearted approach or conservative approach. I mean, I always try to say I'm conservative. I really try to, that's the whole point of this sort of weekly W thing. It just gives me a reason to take action that I rely on and I don't have to FOMO in early. So anyway, I don't know what the point of that is. I do feel bad for the guy, but it's sad to see how this is classic crypto. I mean, how many stories are there like this where people just, like, I don't remember that Philocone guy, or what was his name? That like, God, that was a crazy one. I forget his name specifically, but I mean, there's been so many, or even like somebody like Do Kwon that just got way too big for his britches, starts acting like some sort of like patron saint of finance or whatever. I don't know. What do they say? Those who the gods wish to destroy first make drunk with power. I don't want to be that guy, but anyway. Hell, I'm literally just like sitting in my room here rambling. Not really even, I don't know. I don't know who's listening. I'm not trying to build up a huge following. Of course, like we do want to grow the community, and we want it to be a fun experience for people, and hopefully helpful and hopefully valuable in the sense that you do make a bunch of money. I mean, I certainly I want all of you to make a bunch of money. I just don't want you to think that I'm going to be the ticket to your money. Like I'm not the person. I'm not going to make you rich. I don't know. You have to do that. I certainly want you to, though. So, I'll just keep doing what I'm doing here. I'm going to keep talking about this shit, and we'll see where we're at here in the next bull market. Like that's the point of the Sunday show, and I guess all these shows, we're going to have it documented every Sunday since January 1st, basically, of this year, up until the top of the market, whenever that comes. It could be 5 years from now, and Paul and I will still probably just be doing those shows. And we'll see. We'll be able to see like what happened. We're trying to do that. That's the point of that Road to Financial Freedom plan too, is just try to build consistency and show people what we're doing, and we'll see how it turns out. And maybe if crypto goes to zero and we have to say we even if that happened, we still would be successful in the sense that we followed our plan. We followed through. We didn't risk money that was obscene, was unreasonable for our current situations, and we would just know that we took our shot and it didn't work. Just like a losing trade. I took a losing trade today, and I take losing trades all the time in scalping. But the difference between a losing trade and not following your plan is the difference between a mistake and not a mistake. If I take a loser, but it was my setup, then I can't really, like this APT, if that W fails, then it's not really if your plan's to take a trade like that, then you succeeded. And if you do that and stay in the mindset of, getting to this mindset of being a trader. I mean, okay, of course, now I'm just ranting, but the difference between BitBoy and a trader, this is the thing, is most YouTubers aren't traders, or most crypto people aren't what I consider true traders. Like they're the type of people that are just kind of, they have some inside information, or they are able to ape into a bull market. That's not trading really, or not professional trading is more about following the idea of like, can I build a strategy that can replicate the same trade over 100 trades? And then can I go and execute that trade the same every time? Like, can I wait for this trade to come in 100 times? Like this trade that I just laid out for you guys. Very simple. I didn't invent this. I learned this from TRI. I mean, I've modified it a bit. This isn't specifically, but this is like a similar TRI. This is like Brian Beamish in a nutshell here. And of course, I didn't even come up with this trade. This was Paul. But, this is not rocket science here. But the difference between, somebody like BitBoy and me is I'm trying to do this 100 times. Like, can I take this trade 100 times? Can I be right enough like, especially the 14 to, if I'm taking 14 to 1 trades, I don't need to be right that much. Of course, if this trade works. But even if it wasn't a 14 to 1, can I be right? Can I replicate this trade exactly? Well, very close to exactly the same as this setup every time, do it 100 times. And can I be right? I don't know if, enough times. You can go pull up like a calculator, like one of those equity curve calculators, and you can see what happens if I'm 50% win rate at 2 to 1 risk reward ratio. And that's in a nutshell what trading is. You're essentially a professional coin flipper. You're just going to flip a coin a bunch of times, and when you're right, you want to get paid more than when you're wrong. And you want to be right enough times to make sure you're getting paid enough to cover those losses and then leave you some profit at the end. And of course, like you could, is there an edge in coin flipping? Not really. A coin flip, there's no edge. You're just basically taking a 50-50 bet each time with no edge. But if you could add in an OBV divergence to that flip, then all of a sudden you have an edge. Like if you can identify the OBV W's and divergences produce, have a tendency to produce a move in a particular direction, in this case up, like you could see OBV just cranking higher here. So, and I talk about OBV all the time. It's in divergence. If you can establish that OBV's divergences have a tendency to push the market higher, then that's an edge. So you've just defined an edge, even if, or a W is even simpler. If you could just identify, a W has a specific statistical probability across 100 trades, then you just got to go and buy this W. It doesn't matter what BitBoy says or anybody else says on YouTube or what I say or anybody. And so it's just like, fuck, man, that's what being a trader is actually. It's not anything to do with YouTubers. I mean, there's probably some good, I'm not saying there's some YouTubers that are good traders, I'm sure. But in general, most of the shit you watch on YouTube is just sensationalized stuff where they're trying to suck you into doing something that they profit off of, like buying the coin that they got for free or whatever. So I don't know if that rant makes any sense, but my end all point is I just want people to think like this. Like if you listen to me, great, but really I'm just saying this. It's almost like boring. I'm just trying to, talk about doing this. And I keep repeating my same silly setup. Of course, in these shows, I mostly talk about weekly charts and sort of long-term investing because that's just kind of the thing I'm doing here. But I always say the same thing, location. It's this setup. This is just a daily chart, but I just wait for location, wait for my OBV divergence or W, and then I look for a market structure W and I buy that breakout. And so this is essentially, a 3-reason trade. So there's technically my edge has 3 reasons that I've vetted to be likely to play out the way I think. And I think that this setup has good 60% chance of working. So now, of course, maybe you get stopped out here. You got to move on, but you do this 100 times. Like, go do this 100 times and tell me where you're at. That's what I would call a pro trader. Like, if the people we're teaching how to trade right now, hopefully, like 4 or 5 months down the road, they can show me a log with 100 trades and, tell me what their risk reward was and risk to reward ratio was and what their win rate was. And be able to honestly say, like, well, this one I didn't follow my setup, so that was a mistake. Or this one I didn't, part of that, it gets more complicated than just simply flipping a coin, obviously. But like, you should be able to identify your mistakes. If you're trading a real setup, you should be able to identify when you're not following that setup. It's so hard to do. I'm not saying it's easy, but in theory, it's easy. But yet nobody talks this way, really. Very few people that I've followed in trading actually talk this way. Only the real pros. So anyway, I don't know what I'm even talking about. Maybe I'll just jump into the requests here. Just change I guess if that was the best I could do for a BitBoy rant, that's about all you get. Let me find the David, my friend David here, who's with us all the time. Like, there's a dude that's always here, and he's always at TRI too. He's like he's consistent. That's another part of this, which I didn't really mention. It's like the first step is probably consistency. If you can't build some consistency, how would you ever be able to take 100 of the same trade? So the first step is building consistency, whatever that means, like whether that's learning because you're earlier on in the journey, or whether that's just showing, like for me, consistency, for me, truthfully, right now, the hardest thing with consistency for me is, I try to trade the New York Open on the futures market, and I have to laser in my focus right around that time period, because if I look away for a second or go do something for a second, I'll miss a trade. So it's like really hard for me to just spend a couple hours in the morning just trying to not get distracted. So that's like that's a different kind of consistency that I'm trying to build for myself constantly. Anyway, fuck. So thanks, David. Actually, my point is David sends me names every week and we look at them, and, anyway, so we'll look at a couple of them now. And there's a W. So I don't know. It's probably David's learning something, probably. This kind of looks like APT a little bit. I mean, this is also, this isn't particularly new, I guess I should say, but this is making new lows. So a little bit different than ABT. It becomes a little harder to use fib levels for location. So, you can't really use fibs here. I mean, we could draw fibs off there, but we already took the lows out. And of course, this is a daily chart. I'm going to jump to the weekly, but I got to mention the OBV divergence first. Holy shit. That's exactly, I mean, these are the only charts I want to see right now. I don't want to see like, I mean, like I was looking at 1 inch earlier, just like, I don't want to really care about charts like this right now. OBV is, to be fair, actually trying here, but after this sort of M came in, well, this is the daily. I was thinking a weekly here. Yeah, big old M and OBV, and then it just crapped out, and now it's down here. That's, I like location on 1 inch, but I want to see this set up again. So for right now, 1 inch is off the table. But going back to that polls, which this is one that I got kind of kicked off a KuCoin with, actually. I don't think I can, or I can trade it on, oh wait, this is Polka starter. Well, I can trade this one on Coinbase, it looks like. Maybe even Kraken too. But I'm going to look at it on Binance. I kind of like using Binance for these. Kraken's charts are really thin. And then Coinbase is usually better. But in general, I just kind of like using the Binance charts, even though I don't trade on Binance. So anyway, daily chart, very nice W here. And also very much like APT. They pumped it yesterday and brought it right back down, it looks like. But could see a W trade there. I don't really love that they pumped it so high and then came back down. It sort of, is the move already over yet? Maybe, but I guess it's up. It was up like well, it wasn't up that much, 20% or something. But anyway, same kind of trade as APT. You could argue the OBV div is definitely in and the W is definitely in. Now location becomes trickier, like I was saying. So I mean, clearly location's okay because we're down at the bottom of the range. It's just that we're making new lows technically here. So you might use something like a moving average system could be a way to judge location. You could say something like waiting for a cross, or I like to use the daily here as like as a location. But in this case, I would want to see the 200 way down here and consolidate it against price a little bit better. But anyway, I want to just go to the weekly chart because I'm kind of talking more zoomed out here. And we are seeing the same OBV divergence. From this low to that low, we're not in divergence. You can see how we did technically M out here. So that's kind of like, well, I'll just say that it's not a divergence. I mean, in general, OBV is still very much trending higher and also in divergence. So I think for my setup, I can still buy a weekly W, which this is kind of a weekly W. It's not my favorite, but it's still there. But also being mindful of the fact we just M'd out an OBV and then actually W'd out a little bit. So still for my setup, it's fine because I'm kind of looking at more of this bigger picture divergence here. But it would have been nice to see a nice cheeky little divergence forming there too, just to kind of make the double divergence. So anyway, assuming location's good, it is at the bottom of the range, although making new lows, and then OBV is in divergence, and now we have this sort of weekly W, but I don't know if that's really a great weekly W. Like on a line chart, it's not so great. But like it in general, I think for me personally, I'd just rather see a real W come in. So maybe it comes in like this off of that wick there. It was kind of bad drawing, but maybe it has to just round out a bit. Going back to the end of the year conversation, I do think price will probably do something like that here. Going, in general, doesn't mean we couldn't get doubles off. Like maybe it pops up and gives a double. Like here was even like looks like doubles were had right here. I feel like I got a double on this one is the funny thing. Got to go back and look if I'm mixing it up with something else, but so even if we pop up to doubles, I still think this in general is kind of the path of crypto here going into like the halving. So, the halving's right here, basically April, or right specifically like April, May, around there. So like, do we kind of put a W in sometime before that? Hopefully. That's sort of what I'm looking for. So I think it's like early here, but great looking chart in general and nice OBV. And even more specifically this week, I mean, it's still early in the week, but you can see we're started putting in a kind of ugly weekly candle so far with the body down here. So they popped it up early in the week. and then now have taken it all back. And there's still more of the week left than's already happened. So we'll see how this thing finishes. But I suppose if it rips up and can close up here, then that's more of a weekly W. We'll get like a nice close. It's just so tight. There's only, I don't have like an exact number of candles, but you kind of want to see weekly W's be a little wider than just so compact here. But in general, I still think it's good. I also see kind of like Head and Shoulders forming like that would be something like this. So maybe it can pop up there and come back, and that becomes the bottom. Doesn't always have to be a weekly W. I do see these kind of like bottoms a lot, especially in stocks, but like, this kind of like Head and Shoulders idea instead of you might still get a weekly W like in the right shoulder, but the general structure is something like that. Yeah. Looks good though. Anyway, I'm already at an hour. I was going to try to do an hour only, and then I ranted off about whatever I was talking about. So I'll speed it up a little bit and just go through. I have like a handful of these names here that I want to try to crush through here. This one, I always laugh when I see the name because I don't know how to say KP3R or what it is. But I know that we've looked at it before because of my drawings here, and I remember it anyway. But this one's nice too. It's just kind of, you can see I already drew the W I'm waiting for. And I don't know when I drew this, but probably somewhere in here, I probably use that as my, and I think that's the same conversation. So basically this is the exact same as the last one. Truthfully, we're making new lows, so you can't really draw reload zones off fibs. But nonetheless, we are making, we're trying to base out, it looks like, after coming off a long way. I mean, this thing, damn, it was $2,000 when it opened in 2021. That's insane. So, I mean, it's $50 now, or sorry, yeah, 40, I don't know, whatever the price is right now, 44, and it's got upside to 2,000. Sounds pretty good. But so far, I mean, this is the same story. I mean, this is just, we're too early. I have to admit, we're just too early. Hell, I could be wrong. Maybe we turn into this mega bull tomorrow. But I mean, hell, there's the M's in the NASDAQ and M's in S&P, and dollar won't stop, and inflation's going up, and interest rates are probably still rising. And there's a lot of reasons why we can't just go into a Super Bowl right here anyway. So like, I think it's just early. But nonetheless, I mean, I wouldn't fault anybody for nibbling on this thing down here. And I'll just point out the OBVs are now putting, since the last time I drew this, we now have another divergence because we continued to make a new low. So we actually have double OBV divergence now, which I always like. And technically we have another potential one across the whole bottom so far. So clearly money's flowing in as this thing tries to carve out a bottom. And that's the whole point of OBV, by the way. You want to see this in a bottom because you want to see that the money's starting to flow back in. It doesn't necessarily mean everybody's aping in, but it's like smart money slowly just kind of nibbling back, and they're creating these bigger volume bars to the upside. And they're, buying and then letting price come back down and buying again. And they're just accumulating this, and it's making OBV point up as opposed to down where people are selling rallies more aggressively. That's the whole logic. That's why I like OBV. It's very cut and dry. It's not like, MACD is based on moving averages, right? And I just like OBV because it's directly tied to volume. And it just, I think it tells a good story. You can just sort of see in the divergence that it's like this thing's getting to the bottom here. It might still have to grind lower, but in general, it's making its way to the bottom, and the smart money is accumulating. Whoever, the founders, the devs, the whales of this coin, they probably sold up here somewhere. They've long sold, and they're looking to start buying their positions back, and they're the ones putting in this divergence in OBV. So I like that. I just don't think it's ready yet I mean it's fine to nibble, but I don't think you should expect this to go to $2,000 tomorrow. But man, what a trade if it can get even just 50% levels, like I was saying earlier, just that's 1,000, 1,000. So, that's a pretty good trade to get back to $1,000 from around 50. It's not bad. What is that, 20x? Um, anyway, moving on. I like that one. Cody's one we haven't looked at in a while. And these are the kind of names I want to look at on this show because we do cover the bigger market cap ones Sundays. So I do like kind of looking at these ones that don't, we don't talk about Cody very often. Mostly because that's an ex-girlfriend of mine. I don't like talking about her. I'm kidding, but I'm actually not. Old girlfriend. His name was Cody many, many years ago. What can I say about old Cody? I see OBV divergence here. So I think, David, maybe you must listen to me a little bit. I'm not saying you have to listen to me, but so far you've got 3 OBV divergences. That's a good sign. And this one's small, but we did move to a new low here and OBV did not. And it did, I guess confirmation on this can be a little bit, well, for one, we didn't get OBV divergence from this low back to these lows. That would have been kind of nice, but we did actually tick to a new low. So we don't have like a longer term growing OBV here, but we do have the beginnings of a shorter one because we did make a new low here and now the price is moving higher. And whether you call that confirmed is a little tricky. It's not technically confirmed yet because, the low is this candle here, which would make this the confirmation level. So we haven't quite... We're going to need to take out that level to actually confirm the div, which we didn't really. And this is another issue with OBV is it's not as clean. It's a little harder to like draw your lines on the actual level and stuff. Actually, did we tick through there? It's damn close. I guess I could look at it. The high is 10.2838. and 10.2868. So not quite. We didn't make it through there, but you can see the W's coming in. And technically we were in divergence here. It's just, you can't really call that confirmed because this W back here would have been that low and that low is higher than this low. But these are like sort of the fine subjective natures of technical analysis. I don't call that a divergence just because we weren't in a new low right there. So we were Wing, which I still love OBVWs. That's sort of like step one. But nonetheless, we're almost confirmed here. And no weekly W yet here. So let's just wait. Same conversation. Maybe it comes in right now. Maybe it takes longer, but it could be just a W right here would be enough. Which ultimately probably would. If we pop just a little higher, that'll confirm the OBV divergence. But just to get through that level there. I don't know if I can buy a Cody. That's on Coinbase. Location-wise, I didn't really cover that. I suppose I can tell you that it looks pretty good, and we could also draw some fibs and just say, because this is so unlike those others that are making new lows. This is kind of a preference too. This sort of changes the setup a little bit. I think like if you find a coin like this that has a previous low, then we can say that the range has been established, right? We have a range. Very long-term range with the bottom of the range and the top of the range. So this becomes just a range trade and you can use fibs to use your location. And in this case, we're below 88.6. So clearly location's good down at the bottom of the range and we're getting a nice tighter risk window here. Although to be fair, there's still a pretty good downside risk there, but it's getting tighter against the old lows. But my point is, this is just a range, whereas if we were losing those lows, you have to start thinking it's not necessarily a range and we might continue trending lower. So that's sort of the danger of the coins that are making new lows. You don't really have a great tool for location unless you use something like moving average or maybe you come up with a different method. You can't, I like to use fibs for location, but it doesn't work so well in those situations. But this one's not that case. This has just already had a nice solid rally with a nice base here, weekly W back here, like a nice little weekly W, and then of course a bigger one. Clearly this 87 level is pretty important. It became the high there. Really strong bounce off that level back here, and then support through here. We kind of started losing support a bit. I suppose you could argue, if we can reclaim back into that 79 or something, then it probably has the green light, but that's quite a bit higher. As always, I think just waiting for a nice W. This one's ready. This one's like almost there. It almost has the divergence and needs a W. I suppose if you're aggressive, you could maybe call this a little W trying to come in, but I really don't like that. As far as like weekly chart kind of, maybe if you wanted to zoom in and trade this, there might be a daily W in there, kind of similar to APT. Which, funny enough, looks like, I mean, that's an ugly W, but it does look like some of these crypto names on the daily chart are starting to look a little better. I'm going to do 4 more and then call it. So Theta, I was actually just thinking about Theta today too, and that's a nice W on the daily. So this would be another daily W that's come in. It already had the Wyckoff check retest, and it's bounced from there. So might be a little late to go trade this right here, but it looks very similar to APT. It's also kind of, I mean, it is hanging on to the lows just barely. So, I mean, you could draw fibs off of here to get your location, and that's fine. I don't know if it actually lost that low, though, right there. Let's see. 56.6, and this is 57. So we actually kind of lost that low, whether you are willing to work with that or not. I mean, clearly there's some sort of base being built here. This is actually what's called I suppose this is an Adam and Eve bottom here, because you have a Adam V bottom and then the Eve W. And you could even argue this is the Adam, and then now we're putting in the Eve, which would be more like an Adam and Eve bottom. Like this situation here, this is a very common old school chart pattern where it's like you get V bottom here and then W here, and they call that Adam and Eve. Anytime you see that, that's a pretty good sign actually in general. So that fits that. I just don't, I like that. I mean, we don't have the bigger, wider W yet. Although we kind of do, actually, is funny enough. That's a W, technically, because we did just basically break out. And then there's that little W. So do like the idea of maybe trade here on this one, too. Although OBV is not in the same situation as that APT. We're actually trending lower here in OBV. We had this big volume day a couple days ago. And now we have a W here in OBV, but it's not really in divergence. It's sort of trending down in general. So maybe, and that's the daily chart. The weekly looks like we have a lot more downside. But yeah, weekly is not, we're technically in potential divergence as we moved higher in OBV here. So that's good. And, we're moving lower. And we even have potential divergence from here to here, so that's good. Of course, it's got to get all the way up here to confirm that, but same story. No weekly W yet. I mean, I'm going to have to say this on all of these. And this is probably another difference between somebody like me and a BitBoy type person. So, like, if anybody on YouTube right now is telling you to lump into crypto, then they're probably not the best people to listen to, because I think if anybody that, I don't know, anybody that's like, it has experience in these crypto cycles, it's really hard to make a super bullish argument right here. Now, that's different than saying it's an accumulation year. We keep talking about accumulation, but the difference between accumulation and bull are very, if you don't understand the difference between those two things, then you kind of have to do more homework. But anybody that's saying like ape into stuff right now, or you should chase anything because it's going to never come back down, or I think it's a hard case to make right now. So, I mean, clearly, if you buy this thing at 64 cents and sit on it until the next bull run, can you see like $5 down the road? Sure, easily. Or like, 50% levels off of the highs to the current low is probably a lot of upside. So even just a bounce, I mean, hell, even 38.2s, just to be even more conservative, we could just say 38.2s would be 640. And it's at less than $1 now. So yeah, plenty of upside. So if you were willing to, dollar cost average, like say you like Theta, or this is what I mean by accumulation, is you're not expecting it to just rip straight up tomorrow. And you're also not going to chase it if it leaves you behind and does pop. Whereas like, a YouTuber might, say this thing right here, or maybe better yet, up here, there's probably some YouTuber that's getting paid by Theta or something that's telling you to buy right here and saying, if you don't buy right here, you're going to miss out on the opportunity of a lifetime. That's like exactly the wrong conversation. And you can see what happened to that person, but we couldn't really argue that there was a trade right here. I mean, maybe we had a potential W, but location wasn't super hot. So anyway, the difference between, like, if anybody that's calling like, oh, buy this, and if you don't buy now, you're gonna miss out on the bull run of a lifetime. Anybody that was saying something like that right now, I don't even know if BitBoy was or not. I don't know, but I'm sure somebody out there is. It's probably not the right kind of person to listen to, but point being, this thing's trying to bottom. It's just way too early. And we'll see where we're at. Like, let's wait till the end of the year and see what's going on. Like, see where the market's at in the end of the year, and still, if you want a dollar, this is the point I was making. I guess if you wanted to like dollar cost average something like this, that's fine, because you could buy here at 64. You could nibble again at like, down here, whatever it is. If it keeps grinding down, you just nibble all the way down to the old levels. I mean, clearly there's downside risk here for sure. So like, it's not uncommon for these to go all the way back to the lows of the previous cycle. So, that's 15 cents. So this thing still has from 64 down to 15 or so cents. So tons of downside. But if you just took little nibbles the whole way down, then you're going to find, once it does finally bottom, then you're going to have a pretty good dollar cost average, average cost. And assuming you didn't, if you say you're going to put 2% into this name or 1%, and you break that up into 5 bids or whatever you want to do, then you haven't put an unreasonable amount of risk towards this one particular idea. And if you're willing to sit on it until a couple of years from now, you'll probably do great. And that's sort of the hustle with this long-term. I mean, with trading the long-term crypto cycle, I think the key points are you want to get in, you want to be averaged in at a decent level once the bottom does come in, which means you can't be buying above 61.8s and stuff, and then you just want to make sure you're in a position to be able to hold it till the end. That's why we always say we don't use a stop. We're risking to zero here. We're going to hold, hold this all the way until the end, wherever that end is, if it's up here or down here. And it becomes a lot easier as long as you don't, because the biggest mistake you can make is panic sell. Like if this thing dumps, like say you are at dollar cost averaging and then there's some capitulation event and you freak out and you sell your position at a loss because you got scared, you're going to regret it later, chances are. So anyway, theta looks pretty good, but it's just kind of too early. Like I said, it's sort of dollar cost averageable and nibbleable. I don't drink, by the way, if anybody thinks I'm drunk or something right now. I haven't had alcohol in a long time, so don't think I'm drunk right now. This is just how I am. Stone cold sober. Move on to a couple more, and then I'll wrap this up because I am just dragging on again here. But I do appreciate the few people that do hang out and watch. I hope it's valuable to you, and I hope that it is boring right now, but there will be a time where I'm probably more bullish. I know there will be. It just might take a while. And of course, the longer it takes to have a bull market, the longer Paul and I have to do these damn shows. So hopefully it comes sooner than later. Because the only exit strategy I have for these shows is a bull. I have to see that pi cycle top indicator fire so that I can quit doing this. So hopefully that doesn't take like 5 more years. Not that I'm necessarily going to quit, but we did commit to, that's our commitment to everybody here with the Sunday show, at least. This, who knows, maybe I don't know what the plan is for this show particularly, but anyway, Biko is another one of David's here, and it's another one that I've talked about in the past. And these lines all, clearly the OBV divergence is in, and I've already drawn that out. We have confirmation here so we're just waiting on the weekly W. And of course, OBV's in a massive, you could argue triple divergence now, because every new low has produced another divergence. I have no idea what this thing is, but looks pretty good. It's just the same conversation. I suppose with something like this, you could also draw your like trend lines here and just, if anything, this just tells you you're early. So again, we're early, and this trend line just basically proves, or whatever, not proves, but displays that, probably need to be on the other side of the trend line to truly bottom. think that's reasonable. It'll take some time to work this out. This red line I had on there because I think we were talking about sort of power threes back here, which never truly confirmed. Like the sort of like equal lows were established, and then this is like a whole other setup in itself that you could play with someday. And that ICT guy calls it power three, and I don't know his specific criteria, but just this idea of reclaiming a range. You have like equal lows here. They take out the liquidity of that, of those lows, wash any stops that were there. And then if you can reclaim back into the range, then you can start thinking about moves higher. Shout out from Sweden. Hey, Roble. Cool. That's awesome. This is sort of a failed power three, though, unfortunately. I think I was talking about it back here, but potentially that's why that line was there. We did close inside for a week, but then just crapped out. If we could have stayed inside there and actually made this W, then this would have been more on, I think. And actually, this is a good example of a crappy weekly W close. They did the same thing as I was talking about on that other one. Like, it was very strong through the week. And then by the end of the week, they had crapped out and just it never closed above the W breakout level. It just sort of weak closed. And then the next week it tried, but still couldn't quite get. I mean, technically, this would have been the level that it needed to close above, way up here. So a strong close would have been a nice sign for that power three and the weekly W, and that would have actually fired my setup here with OBV divergences and, all that stuff. Never really came in, and now we're just sort of new lows again and trying to like hit the reset button. So we still have OBV divergences and Ws and all that stuff. Power three is kind of off the table, I think. And these weren't really strong equal lows. I think you'd probably want to see like more of a base here. Like these would be wider apart. I don't know. I don't particularly trade power three specifically. It's just a setup I'm aware of. Nonetheless, let's wait for a weekly W here too. But it looks good. I mean, this looks better than a lot of other things that aren't doing this. Like if OBV doesn't look like this, I don't really care about it right now. That's kind of what I'm getting at. So at least OBV looks like that. Wow, and then Link BTC was we don't look at very many names against Bitcoin these days. That's pretty interesting though. What would I say about Link versus BTC? Well, one, I see downside risk still. Two, I know that Bitcoin's sort of, I shouldn't say that. I feel like Bitcoin's still kind of dominant at the moment, although I think Bitcoin dominance itself might even be rolling over a little bit. But nonetheless, would you go and cash in your BTC for Link right here? I mean, we know Link's pretty strong looking on the US dollar chart. I see a decent location, right? We've basically bounced off of 88.6 now. So we basically took out the liquidity of that low here and reclaimed the range. I mean, this isn't really power three because we don't have like multiple equal lows so much, but same concept. We sort of fuck you the lows here and reclaimed the range. That's a good sign in general. And now we kind of have this sort of wonky W coming in on a potential OBV divergence and even a potential OBVW here that'll come in with the break of that high and this W. So yeah, I mean, it seems okay. I would think of this more like a trade. If we lose these lows here, then we do have quite a bit more downside to get back down into these levels here. So if it can hang in here and actually stay into this range, like does reclaim that range, then it seems like it has a chance. I suppose there's like sort of trend line setups kind of into not a great place to draw the trend line, just this steep one. Or maybe that one. Either way, we're on the other side of it. So at least you're not too early, or premature. I think maybe you're probably still a little early in general. This thing could kind of bounce around sideways for the rest of the year. But it looks pretty good. And if you look at Link, I mean, I know this is one Paul's been interested in lately, Chainlink US dollar. Setting a nice base here. And actually this one is a power three. Staying on with the power three kind of idea here, because we did get kind of equal lows. This is probably a better example of power three too, because you can see That's the wrong. I meant to just use a horizontal line, but let's see. Yeah, this one, equal lows, those lows, these lows, those are close enough to count in my opinion. And you can see we sort of built this sideways. This is probably a way better example of power three, where we have this sidewaysy range that's basing off of these equal lows, and then they just took out, FU'd the lows and brought it right back into the range. And now you can see it's just been building ever since. A nice bottom still. So considering this looks pretty good too, then I don't know. I don't mind I'm not really thinking about trading it against BTC so much, but I guess it looked all right. OBV itself sort of in divergence potentially here now too, because we did take out that low. And I don't know what it is with Link, but it just couldn't get its act together here, like during the first rally of the year. That would have been, more like over here. Yeah, like right here when everything else kind of took off, or many things. Link couldn't get it together, but it's just building a nice base. I will say though, if we lose these lows here, then of course there's downside risk. But I was in here buying on that dump actually there, and just nibbling some Link. Yeah, what can I say? It sort of needs to break this range though. Hopefully you can see the nice channel building, sideways channel. It needs to take out those highs. That'll make weekly W's. This W could confirm. And this setup will be active if we can break out there and then pull back to, then I'd have a solid setup there, because OBV divs would probably be confirmed by then, and we'd have a weekly W. And location, I didn't draw fibs, but location's good. And I don't know, this is on Binance, but I don't remember when Link officially came out, but that was that's 2017. So yeah, sounds about right for the beginning of Link. So yeah, location's obviously really good at 88.6 basically. There's just, if it loses the lows, it's $7 right now, and the low, this old high right here kind of marks the original weekly W, and that's quite a bit lower. So that's quite a bit lower at $1.50. So if it loses these lows, it might have to just explore down there. But so far so good. Looks pretty good in general. And then, one more. Melon, and I saw this. I remember this one from Bittrex days, way back in the day. Now it's barely traded. Like, that's funny. It's only on Binance and Bitfinex. I think this is Melon, unless it's something else now. It used to be something called Melon. And nice OBV, divergence, even divergence here. I don't know if that's technically confirmed. Let's see. That is. So we did take out the high and confirm the OBV divergence, and then crapped it out kind of the next week. But nice sideways, just kind of sideways channel, sort of power 3-ish too, in the sense that all those equal lows have now been taken. It's just kind of not really, you kind of want to just see it dip out and dip right back in. So I don't think it qualifies as a true power 3, but the same idea of reclaiming the range, you can kind of see it trying to reclaim those lows here right now. And that's a good sign in general. This is another one that you can't really draw fibs per se off it because it's making new lows. But if it could W right there, that'd be ideal. Like if it could just kind of use that high as the W and kind of come in like that. Just wait for that. Hopefully, if I could teach anybody anything, I would just teach this pattern of what a bottom looks like. This sort of like rounded out, slow, patient thing, and then eventually you get a W. I could show you hundreds of charts. We could go pull up any chart from the past and find this pattern. Pretty much anything, anywhere, any asset class, or it's just like such a common, you could even use that silly emotions chart or whatever, where it's like depression and anxiety, and that's essentially, what's that chart called? I don't know, but the one that that shows the market cycles of emotions or whatever, and it's basically showing that same pattern that I've drawn just so many times. You have this extreme run up, and then it kind of works its way back down, and then eventually W's. And that's why we use those fib thingies to just, This is that. It's just we don't really know what's back here, which I do feel like. Well, I know this was a coin going back to 2017. If this is the same thing, Melon, it was Bittrex. Like, can we look at it versus BTC? I wonder with more. Maybe it was because I was looking at USDT. Well, maybe Bitfinex. Like, yeah, I knew this was an older one, so we could draw fibs. I mean, this is against BTC, but you could still see that pattern, happening that I was just talking about. And you can draw your fibs to see that we're down, all the way down at below 88.6. So just learn that pattern and learn the idea of weekly W's, and you'll be ahead of BitBoy, probably. I don't know if he knows the technical analysis. Although, of course, he probably has more money than all of us. Stashed away somewhere, buried in a, it's all at Cassie's house. All his crypto is stashed in hardware wallets at Cassie's. Is that her name? I don't mean to be picking on him. I do actually feel, I mean, it's a weird thing. It's like, I do have compassion for him, but I also know that he would, I don't know, would he have, I don't know. He kind of was a shady dude a little bit, right? I don't know. Maybe not. I don't know the guy, but I am empathetic to like the sort of issues he's facing. Hopefully he works it out for himself. I don't even know what he's doing right now. I didn't pay any attention to the news or anything. I don't know if he's in jail or, I just know that he's, on one. That's what we call around here. We call being on one. So hopefully he's okay. Anyhow, I think that's about all I got. I could keep rambling on, but it would just be more of the same. I don't know if that's worth it. I did have a list here of ones that I won't get to, but unfortunately there's just too many. But all these pink here, these are all strong OBV names some of these are ridiculous. Like Maker is just one that's just super strong. So there's nothing to do here. It's sort of an outlier. Oh God, why can't I get rid of that stupid marker? I mean, I have a feeling I'll be kicking myself down the road because I never got in on this one. The Road to Financial Freedom Plan bought the dip here on that tail and already banged a double out on Maker. But man, this thing looks strong for whatever reason. Never really got a great weekly W in the past, which is sort of how I never got in on it. Now it has this very wide weekly W, so not a buyable W, but that's a great looking base. And you could see the OBV divergence had come in. It just, I would have been looking for a W down here that never happened. And for whatever reason, this thing's strong. So that one's just sort of in there because I just noticed it being one of the strongest coins these days. But all these other ones are just ones that look pretty good. Like KNC is looking pretty good. That's a nice base coming in here with OBV divs. I don't know. Divs are weird. There's definitely a div actually, there's not technically a div right there. But either way, OBV is kind of going in. I think it's going into divergence there. I don't know if we actually have a new low. Looks like we do. So divergence there and potential weekly W. It's going to be kind of a tall one once it breaks out, but nice base being set there. So these all everyone in this list here, I don't know, you could screenshot it or whatever, are all, for the most part, ones that look like that, this SHIB I had put on here because of the divergence. It's looking kind of heavy, but still got nice OBV hanging in there. I don't know. ILV, this is one that I already banged a double out on this, this one, Illuvium or whatever. I got a double on this one, and now I'm just kind of waiting. OBV's strong, divergence is in, no W. Technically has a little weekly W, but I'm not really counting that. So all these look like that, and those are just a handful of ones I just picked really quick so I had something to talk about if I needed them. They all look pretty good though. I've been talking about this lid a lot lately. Sort of kind of like building a base similar to Link, but it's all the way down against its original low here on Binance. Notice the strong OBV making new highs. No W's on any of these. Like if I just thumb through them, like Aave looks good. FX, this one, this one has OBV div, but I don't really remember this one. I must have just added that. But nonetheless, they all kind of look the same, but none of them have weekly W's. That was the only point I was going to make. Except this one, of course, of course, the next one I pop up does. Forgot about LPT because I do want to buy more of this as it comes down. I did buy the last W breakout here and couldn't quite get a W, but this is a nice looking chart. This one's farther along than most. You know, we basically have a power 3 concept also with the weekly W, with OBV divergence. And it did look really strong several weeks ago, and now it's just coming right back down into the breakout level and reload zones and stuff. So this is a kind of a buy to me. Not right here necessarily. I think I'd probably rather, I mean, we are at Mountain Man, so I have the green light to actually buy here, but I already did buy this level, so I'm going to just wait for 78.6s and 88.6s and see if I can nibble more as it comes down, because I'm already long from like 506 when it broke out through here, I think is where I got filled. So this one is one of the nicer looking. This is one of the few weekly W's, so I'll end with this one. Actually, that's a good one to end with. And I'll mention that like XRP and XLM also have weekly W's, and they're coming back into reload zones. But for the most part, there's not a lot of charts that look like this that are already kind of based. And to be fair, general crypto market's kind of heavy, so this thing might still have to, you know, maybe even make a new low and have to set up again, or maybe it just sort of bumps along here for a while. But either way, it's plenty of upside and just kind of another name to chew on. If it can get going, it's got 10X is written all over it. If, you know, 10X back to like probably Mountain Man from here. So let's see. I mean, 50% level is $53. And yeah, so 10X back to the 50% level practically. So go make a bunch of money buying these things and waiting 2 years. Anyway, I'll leave it at that. I went way too long. Well, an hour and 36 minutes is still way longer than I wanted to go. Someday I'm going to try to keep these to an hour, but not so much that I mind. I like doing it. It's just that I don't think there's much value in an hour and a half long YouTube show. It's sort of hard for people to watch. I recognize that, so I'm not offended if you bail on me or watch it on 2 times speed later. So, but anyway, I always appreciate feedback. If anybody has any. Shout out to Robel from Sweden. Thanks for popping in, and David for always being here, and everybody else. Appreciate it. Hanya, thanks for the graphics as always, and the charts. Hanya is another person that sends me a lot of names to look at, so I appreciate that. And I'll just leave it at that. So everybody have a good rest of your day, evening, whatever, and I'll be back tomorrow for the New York session with the group, and just take it from there one day at a time and wait till this crypto bottom comes in. All right, friends, see you later. Have a good one. Bye-bye.